4. Everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. My name is Bradley Ball, and we are back and better than ever. So good to have you with us. Once again, we had a very busy week last week, but we are not slowing down. On Monday, Andreas and Neeraj last week released Computer Vision with Azure ML Studio. Our community roundtable happened on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, we released how to create a dynamic pipeline in Azure Synapse Analytics or Azure Data Factory. Then this Monday, little did we know, we released Azure SQL Database Maintenance Plans with dynamic Azure Data Factory pipelines by our good friend Dan Taylor. And wow, over 140 views in less than 24 hours. Great work, Dan, taking Ola Holmgren's great scripts for database maintenance and putting those to work using Azure Data Factory against Azure SQL databases. Amazing stuff. There is so much to do, so much to see. You don't want to miss a thing. So if this is your first time finding your way over to Tales from the Field, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Make sure that you head over to our YouTube channel. That's where this broadcast goes. And also make a comment. Oh my goodness, I don't know where I am right now. Sorry, I moved my script around and I can't even see it. So there are so many ways you can interact with the show. We are streaming right now on the Twitter accounts of Tales from the Field, TF the Field, Josh Ludeman, Neeraj Jhaveri, SQL Balls, over on LinkedIn under SQL Balls, also on YouTube, of course, at the home of Tales from the Field on our YouTube channel. If you make a comment on any one of those streams, one of my amazing co-hosts will see that comment and they will add it to the broadcast. You will be part of the show. Speaking of those amazing co-hosts, let me introduce them. I am joined by Andreas Padilla, Josh Ludeman, and he did it his way, and he can make it here, he can make it anywhere, and they love him everywhere. It's your friend and mine, Neeraj Jhaveri. Andreas, we are hitting a rhythm. We got 5 weeks in a row with a Monday MS Tech Bits, a roundtable, and then MS Tech Bits on Wednesday. This past weekend was Mother's Day, though. We can't overlook this, so happy belated Mother's Day to all the moms out there. What did you do for your wife and Mama Padilla? Did y'all have a big day?
Oh, we had a great day. It was almost to the level of Dan's, explosive video. Man, that guy is charismatic and magnetic, and the camera loves that guy. But we had a great weekend. My wife said, you hit it on the nail head, knocked it out of the park. Great dinner. Great little, had the kids create cards, balloons, flowers. It was a stressless weekend. So, but I was rested. I got up in the morning and I started cleaning on Saturday and Sunday. She didn't have to lift a finger, prep the kids, do anything. It was, I finally got I finally know how to do these things after, 5 years. I think I got it right. Yeah.
Well done, Andreas. No, that sounds like a lot of hard work, but a lot of fun. I was going to say, I posted this on my blog, but I end up bartending for the ladies, and I put the dads and the kids to work in the kitchen to be able to make Mother's Day brunch. And so this year it was more of a breakfast brunch than anything. We did pancakes, chocolate chip pancakes, and Bananas Foster's maple syrup. But I make mimosas, and the way I make my mimosas is a little different. Most of the time, it's just orange juice and champagne, right? And we got to have a little Don Julio Blanco in there as well. Then you add a little orange Grand Marnier as well. Pour in your orange juice, and then you fill that baby up to the top with champagne. I have never had a complaint on my mimosas. They do love them, and it puts everybody in a really good mood before we go and have that breakfast brunch. Period of time. Neeraj, Josh, how about you guys? What did y'all do for Mother's Day?
So I went to the city, New York City. My wife wanted to go to the city from a long time. So we went around. Kids wanted to go eat something from the French workshop. So they ended up spending almost an hour up there and trying all different types of coffees and sweet desserts and pastries and cookies and all of them. And then we ended up having a nice dinner up there by the East Village. So that was fun. Came back home. Kids still wanted to keep on going because they wanted to eat nice ice cream. Wife told them, nope, it's too cold for you to eat, so you're not getting it. So that's how we ended up. But it was fun.
I got to tell you, I love Neeraj because we've always known Neeraj as a colleague, fun loving guy, getting to hang out. I always love to hear him say no to the kids because he's just like, I said no.
Not me. Wife said this time it was Mother's Day, so not me. I was not. It was I was a driver up there, just taking them around.
Yeah,
Very nice.
Friday for me. Emma, our younger daughter, is moving on from 8th grade into being a freshman in high school. So
Ooh.
they do absolutely. So what they commonly do here in Orlando is something called Grad Venture. And they do it in partnership with Universal Studios. But basically, there's a few Friday nights in May where the park closes early to the public, and the kids run the park from different schools all over the state. So Friday night, that's what I did. I started chaperoning at 2:30 when we got on the bus at the school, and didn't get back to my own bed until 2:00 in the morning. So
Wow.
that was Friday night. And then, but yeah, for Sunday, for Mother's Day, just a nice calm day with a brunch, and then went over to Epcot and just strolled around the world and had a couple drinks and just some good time together, all four of us, and then headed back to the house.
Is it safe
Very
to say?
nice.
Is it safe
Yes.
to go on a ride on the Universal Studio now, Josh? After you went in there?
So yeah, so for me, when I do Grad Venture, I end up just basically I try to make sure that it's organized madness for the kids. So for me,
Nice.
I was just walking around, trying to make sure they had a good time, make sure they don't do something crazy to hurt themselves, and make sure that they end up having a good night, right? Like,
Yep.
Common thing they do is like, oh, the lines are long at the beginning on this one ride they want to go on. We'll just check back later. Well, one of the things they do is towards the end of the night when they're getting ready to kick the kids out is they shut down rides. I'm like, no. You wait in the line early. You do it. Make sure you do it. Make sure you hit those rides that I have to do this before I go. Don't put them off.
Yep.
So,
Our good buddy Dan Taylor is he said, "Hey, have a great show. Sorry I can't attend today. Taking some R&R with the family up at the Cincinnati Zoo." Dan, well deserved that R&R. Great job with the video, buddy.
absolutely.
We're
Thinking
excited
of
for
Dan
this.
right here too with the paddle and the smoky shirt that I have. We both have a love for his love is much greater than mine and all that, but our love for the mountains and the Smoky Mountains especially. So thinking of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to some content. What we're going to start out with now, before we go to Neeraj, because Neeraj always gets first pick, we're actually going to go to one that we've written this week. So this is a really big deal, and this is some really, really big news. We are having a big digital event at Microsoft that you want to participate in. Adam and Patrick, from Guys in a Cube, they are going to be a big part of this. The Power BI team, the Azure Synapse team, they're all going to be a part of this. Several weeks ago, I reached out and we were having a wonderful conversation. And I said, hey, what if we did a preview show over on Tales from the Field, gave people an opportunity to kind of learn about what they're going to cover in a day, take a little question and answer, also be able to point some folks to some good resources. And they said, we love it. And so Bradley Schatt from the Azure Synapse product group and Adam Saxton, one half a Guy in a Cube, is going to be joining us. And Adam, of course, is from the Power BI Cat team. And we're going to talk about some of the big things at Build and this big digital event coming up. That is going to be at 3 p.m. UCT, 11 a.m. East Coast time, 8 a.m. Pacific time. So I'm going to let you do the rest of the time conversions from there. But this is going to be a nice big deal. As you can see, all of us are going to be there. Andreas, Neeraj, Josh, Dan, myself, Adam, and Brad. We are going to kick off that show, and we are going to go until very close to the point in time that you need to head over. And if you have not heard of this,
Oops. Lost
we
Andreas.
lost Andreas. If you have not heard of this big digital event, we've got you covered in this blog. This will be part of the YouTube links that we do put out there. So that way you've got access to this. This will be in the description of the video. This is over on the Azure Fast Track blog already. But your call to action is to go sign up for MS Build. MS Build is a free event that we've got going on, and it's going to get you access to so many wonderful things. If you are online, you absolutely want to make sure that you have signed up for MS Build. You also want to click right here. This link goes to aka.ms build cal invite for 05/23/23. And it will put a calendar invite on your calendar. I've got it. I know you guys have got it too, but we will be looking at this, and this will put a block on your calendar so you'll be able to watch the big digital event. And then you want to head over to Tales from the Field, go to our live streams, click on notify me for the live streams on the 24th to 25th. Don't worry, we'll be tweeting out the links. And if you are viewing us, we will be right here. We will simulcast this on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. And of course, it will get saved and it will be up on our main page as well. And then a preview for the big event. Well, Adam and Patrick did this with Vice President of Data, Arun. You want to go check this out. It's a little bit of a teaser of what we're going to be covering. It's going to be about what's next with Power BI, Snaps, and Data Factory. This is going to be a huge, big event. I know we are all really, really excited about this.
And we are having a pre-show on both days, right? May 24th and 25th.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a matter of fact, on the blog, one of the things I break down is on the 24th, we're going to cover some of the big announcements from Build. We're going to cover what you can expect to see on day one. And then on day two, we're going to be doing a recap of what was covered on day one. We're going to talk about what you're going to end up seeing on day two. But we will be in the thick of it at that point in time. And so it's a wonderful point in time to be able to come and talk to us, talk to the product group, do a Q&A live with us for while we are running that live show. Those two special events is a big part of Microsoft Build Week. Super excited about this.
Yeah, and definitely tune into the live show. Again, we'll be watching the comments, live stream comments. Feel free to throw questions in, and we'll get to them as time permits and everything. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a great show.
Absolutely. So now we get over to the roundtable, but remember, and we're going to talk about it again, you want to make sure you're at that pre-show. It's going to be a very talked about event, and it's going to be a big deal. First up, Neeraj Jhaveri, you have scaling strategies for large-scale Azure Cognitive Services deployments.
So this is a good article that I came across. I was just playing around last week on cognitive services, and the guy RK really describes it up in a very nice way, right? I mean, he shows up understand the peak loads, right? I mean, that's what he first shows you the architecture of what really need to look at it, and then he goes over it and describing about understanding the application peak loads, right? I mean, what you really expect from it, and then you go and see what are the limits on it, right? I mean, he goes over the limits of cognitive services. Breaks it down, and then it does the scaling of strategies for cognitive services, how you can scale up your cognitive services. One thing that he even mentions in there is support requests, cognitive services, auto scale features, which is, I mean, I think that is a cool feature right there that you can use it up. And then he gives some examples in there. So very nice written blog, something that can help you scale up your cognitive services while you are doing some cool things on the AI side of it.
Very nice. Very nice stuff. Let's see. I'm up next, and I have from Drew Skirska over on the Azure Tools team announcing the general availability. I cannot speak today. Goodness, it started with the intro, and it's just going to work its way all the way through. General availability for Azure Data Studio extensions for SQL database projects. So what is the big deal about this? Well, if you don't know what SQL database projects are, they are objects that comprise a single database, such as tables, stored procedures, functions, and allow you to be able to integrate with data DevOps, which we have talked about quite a bit on this show. So that way you can create a DAC pack and you can then begin to build that DAC pack. This is new functionality that has been added to Azure Data Studio. If you're using if you're using SQL Server Management Studio, this has been in there before. So this is a big deal. We talked before about how we're taking some of those administration functions, some of those things that keep me over in SSMS sometimes, and we're importing some of those over to Azure Data Studio, which makes it a little bit easier for me to walk between both worlds. If I want to be able to do a project deployment, having this capability to not only be able to do this, but be able to work between my GitHub repo and be able to push this project to a different server in a different environment, absolutely amazing. Drew walks through how to be able to do this, how to be able to do some comparisons of the code so you can see what has changed from one package to the other, which is always really important when we're looking at deploying code from our development environments into production. Great blog, and definitely go check out that functionality. Let's see. Next up, Andreas, I have you, and we are getting started with Azure Machine Learning Responsible AI Components, Part 1.
Oh, yeah. But you got to read Part 2 and 3. I mean, it's an easy read, you guys. Ruth Yakubu, thank you for putting this out there. Now, for those of you getting into AI, there's a responsible AI responsibility that we push on our customers and make sure that your model is fair, it's reliable, it's private, it's inclusive, transparent, and the model is accountable. We want to make sure you bake all of those pillars into the cake because we don't want any unknown biases to be seeped in. We want it to be fair and safe model when you give out those predictions. Now, what she does for us in this 3-part series is showcase how to use what are called responsible AI components. Inside of Azure Machine Learning Studio, we make it easier for you by wrapping little pieces of code into what are called components. And you can take already those pre-baked modules, pre-baked components, and add them into your machine learning pipeline. So when you get to the portion of, hey, I need to, have some indication of whether or not my model is actually fair, it's secure, I'm baking in all the right best practices into it, you can incorporate these components, easily done, and add them into the pipeline. So then what happens, I get my data, I train my model, then I add in the responsible AI dashboard side of it, add these components in there to say, hey, is the model fair?
Oops, we lost him.
Oh, we lost him again. So I was going to say fantastic blog. And one of the things that I really love about this is as someone who's diabetic, it starts out using a medical diabetes data set. And that's a very important thing to think, right? We talk about the application of these models all the time in different medical technology. But when you look at those HIPAA records, what you're doing is you've got people and you've got to be able to keep that data in a very secure state. And you've also got to be able to present the logical processing as to why you have utilized something like this. Yeah. If Andres has anything to add, we will grab him when he returns. But up next, Josh, I've got you. And you've got a GitHub repository labeled ARI. What's going on with this?
Yeah. So I broke one of our, or at least one for me when I pull links, I try and pull, again, community focused ones, kind of broke it here. This is a Microsoft one, but I, kind of tripped and fell over this. So what ARI is an Azure Resource Inventory. So ARI gives you, basically is a whole PowerShell script or a powerful script written in PowerShell, but it includes the ability to create automation accounts as well and all the functionality in there to basically script out and diagram out your Azure environment into Excel spreadsheets, including network topologies, logical topologies, all the good stuff in there. And you can see actually in version 3, which just came out a little bit ago, it gets into, completely rebuilt with, again, the support for more than 30,000 resources because there were issues with networking and things like that. This is just one of the views that you're showing there. The network topology is further down. Organization views so that you can actually look at the, management groups within, say, an enterprise subscription. It's just really, really thorough. And I mean, let's be honest. One of the things we all, maybe there's some of us in this group that do, but I know there's a lot of people that do not enjoy documentation. And any of those tools, when I see them to kind of get in the way and jump up and go, hold my beer, I've got this, I'll take care of your documentation. I fall in love with the tools right off the bat and then, learn more about them. So when I saw this, I was like, yeah, we got to share this one. This one's good.
Yep.
No, I like this. This is really cool. I'm not going to lie. It makes me want to aim this against my own Azure environment and play around with it and see what this comes up with.
I was thinking the same thing. Hey, Steve.
Oh, hey, Steve Hughes, our good buddy. As a matter of fact, I believe we have something for you coming up, my friend. We appreciate the hand clap. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. So good stuff, Josh. That's going to be a lot of fun to play around with.
Agreed.
Let's see. Up next, I have Neeraj. And Neeraj, you have Chat GPT plus Python plus Power BI. That's bananas.
That's like, and this was one of the things that came up. I was just talking to one of my customer plus one of my other colleagues joined in, and they're like, his question was, can ChatGPT be integrated with Power BI? And and I was like, not sure of that part of it. And then I was like, let me do some research on it, and then came across a good article by Gabe, where he's integrating ChatGPT with Power BI using the Python in there. And what he does is basically talk the power of ChatGPT with the data visualization using the Python magic in that scenario. He goes over how to do that whole step by step. He's showing you how to do that whole stuff, how to integrate your ChatGPT with Power BI using Python in there. A couple of very simple steps that you can do it, and then after that you can talk your visualization, ask questions based on your ChatGPT. Probably something maybe I was thinking to make a video on it also at some point of time, but that is something cool he has mentioned up here.
No, I love this. I think this is really great because so I did that video recently where I was taking the data, and it looks like this is using a different Python package than LangChain, which is what I was using, where I use that and I pulled my data from SQL Manage Instance and I threw it through and I asked questions about it. This is fascinating because I love this integration. Things are going to get built in more and more as we go along, but right now we're in the early stages of this where we're building these things out ourselves. And I can't wait to see where this goes. Really, really excited for this. Okay, I am earmarking this. If you don't end up making a video out of this, then I'm gonna let Josh make a video out of it because this sounds like a fun thing to make a video out of.
Yep, Josh got homework.
There you go, Josh. There's your next video. All right, I am up next. I've got scripts to decode SQL Server locking and blocking wait resources. I always love stuff like this. This is by Eric Blinn, and it's over on MS SQL Tips. Once again, a lot of great stuff that they have on MS SQL Tips. And what this specifically talks about is if you get an LCK wait stat, that is a lock. LCK_M is a lock mode. And then they have all the different types of locking. So IS is intent shared. I is just intent, which is I intend to take this lock. So I have something, and it could be in a pseudo transaction isolation level where it's coming in and it's doing a scan operation to be able to then grab a lock on something. U update, S shared, which is a read, and X is an exclusive lock taken when we're doing a delete or an insert. And one of the things he talks about is looking at those wait resources, and you can see there's the tab wait resource, and how do we break that down to be able to find out what object specifically we are waiting on. And one of the things this can do is this can help point you at a specific table, a specific object within a database for you to understand, oh, this is what I'm waiting on. This is where I'm getting my locking mechanisms occurring. And so it can also help you to then start to go, what queries do I have that are using this base table object? How are we using this within these objects? And as he points out, won't always be a table. Could potentially be a GAM page, could be a store procedure, could be a key resource. A lot of interesting things just about the internals about how you can look this down. But it's one of those key things. We've talked about wait stats before. That's that first level where you identify something, and then how do you dive a little bit deeper to actually find the right root cause of the issue? So up next, I have Andreas. Andreas, I love the title of this. Pandas, Spark, and Polaris. When to use which? That's just such a great thing.
No, it's a great article by Byron Carlson. I love snackable articles. This is a snackable article, and it applies to the way I see this is that, I have customers constantly asking me, squeeze more juice out of this, squeeze more juice. How can I get this, faster? What are the tricks of the trade? What are the performance, knobs that I need to hit? And maybe this matters, the underlying SDK and engine that you run, whether it's Pandas, Spark, or Polaris, sometimes matters. And what he does in this article is he showcases, he takes these three packages, Polaris, Spark, and Pandas, and he runs them against different data frame sizes. 2,500 rows, 25,000 rows, 250,000, and then 2 million. And he looks at the performance feedback that he gets from each one of them. And he showcases his conclusion at the end of the day was that for small data frames, maybe lean on Polaris. For small data frames with capped CPU utilization, go for Pandas. And if you have large data frames that require distributed compute, go for Spark. But he mentions at the very end, he's like, if you want predictable memory and CPU usage with good performance for smaller and larger data frames, lean on Polaris. So choice is yours. You have some good documentation here that has some actual analytics behind why you should, and some, use different, some of these SDKs, but by all means, it's nice to have a good snackable pros and cons.
Oh, I love that. I love the breakdown too. I love the graphs that actually show the performance, so you can understand how the statements were run across each and how the metrics were actually utilized. Great, great stuff. See, next up, I have Mr. Josh Ludeman, Beginner's Guide to Database Reliability Engineering, when site reliability engineering meets data engineering. Very interesting.
Yeah. So when I was looking for my links for this roundtable, I kind of wanted to, I was like, why don't I try something like stick to a whole organization of how I, find the content that I'm looking to share. So for this week, I'm trying out a tool, topic, and a tidbit. Okay. So we did the tool. This is the topic. So database reliability engineering is really, for those who have heard of site reliability engineering, this is really focused on the data experience. And I actually, when I think of it, don't even think of it. It's commonly called database reliability engineering. It's really, in my mind, I look at it as data reliability engineering. And this article does a great job of going through it, because really, database reliability engineering, you're thinking, oh, so I'm, a DBA that specializes in highly available. No. And this article goes into that, that it's not really a database administrator type of role. That, there's aspects of data modeling, data analyst, architecture, not just focusing on the database right there, talking about high availability, the internals, yes, but also reliability of not just the database, but also MPP platforms, pipelines, integration, security, compliance, across an entire solution. So I encourage people to read this. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this should, if not be a role in companies of all sizes, should at least be something, that you're concerned about or sharing responsibilities for across your team. So it was just a really interesting article I wanted to bring up.
Interesting stuff. I like it. It's always nice when I've heard of database reliability engineering, but I've not dove deep into the topic. Nice to be able to have something to be able to get in there. Nourage, I've got you up next. How Microsoft can help you go passwordless this World Password Day.
So did you guys know that May 4th is considered as World Password Day? I did not know it. My kid brought it up saying
true.
This is
May the 4th is Star Wars Day.
But yeah, that's where she brought it up. I mean, the reason I brought this article was while we were driving this to New York City, my wife was like, I can't remember the password, I can't do this, and she was tired of this whole password thing and all of them. So I was like, okay, let me look at some options for you where you can go passwordless and make your life easier. I mean, every day, I think there was the article where it says 1,287 passwords are hacked every second or something. In this article only they're saying.
Oh yeah, 1,287 passwords
are hacked every second. So if that's the case, like we really need to be very protective of what we are doing, right? I mean, everything right now, any app that you go to, even Starbucks app or a Dunkin' app or something like that, it is a password. It has your information in there, right? I mean, it has your credit card in there. You can be ending up into big problems if you don't have a correct password set it up. So Microsoft has a whole way to do it, and something very nicely written by Alex, how we at Microsoft can help you out go passwordless completely and save you from getting into hacks and all that stuff. So nicely written article here.
No, I really love this. This is a very reticent topic. I mean, because security is never going to get be lessened. Nobody's ever going to call us up and be like, you know what, folks, don't worry, no more passwords are needed. We're just letting everybody in. You can trust them.
We're just naturally secure. We were born that way.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's never going to happen. So no, I love the idea and concept. I am up next. And I've got our good friend Hugo Cornelius. And what I love is that Hugo is kind of back to the full form that I remember him in some of his blogs. This is for T-SQL Tuesday 162. And it was about how you can utilize ChatGPT with SQL Server. And I love this, execution plans according to ChatGPT. Now, as Andreas was talking about earlier, one of the things that you really need to be careful about with these systems is we've got to make sure that we've got responsible AI. And responsible AI is making sure that we fact check things. ChatGPT is amazing, but when you look at this, ChatGPT really is an advanced neural network that understands how to be able to communicate and phrase things so it sounds as if you are communicating with a human being. You know, if I were to say, I just cooked this meal, here's this delicious roast that rib roast I just took off the smoker, it couldn't tell us what it smelled like, what it looked like. It's not vision AI, right? It couldn't tell me the recipe that I utilize for this. It could attempt to give me a description based off of other descriptions of the food that it finds online. But that's one of those important things to keep in mind. So what I love was that Hugo goes through this and he says the danger of trust. And one of the things he does is he puts this to the test. And he asks it several questions. He asks it about nested loops. And there are some things it gets right. And there are some things that it gets very wrong. Table spools. Again, some things it gets right, some things it gets wrong. He asked it a trick question, and it actually, because there's no fake data out there supporting the trick question, it was able to go, that's not a thing. And it was able to get that. So once again, did a very nice job of being able to accurately use this. But then he talked about a very rarely used switch operator, and the response was interesting. I like that he said the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I've always heard the proof is in the pudding, but I perhaps we in America are using that phrase wrong. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. That makes a little more sense because you don't know if it's good or not until you have a taste of it. And one of the things he did was he asked it how to specifically optimize a query from at a mechanic. And while it did reduce the overall total CPU being utilized, and so I think this is where we have to be careful of how we ask for it to tune something. It changed the format of the query where instead of returning 14 rows, it returned 96 rows. The overall performance was worse, but the CPU utilization was much better. So once again, it just shows that we've got a long way to go, but you want to make sure that you don't blindly trust, that you understand why something is telling you what it's telling you, and that we use these tools in a very effective manner. Still a lot of amazing ways that I know we've been able to shortcut them. We had the great post with Adam and Patrick recently where they helped be able to produce a coding solution using ChatGPT. Really great stuff that we can do. Decoding the items within an execution plan. Not quite there yet. Not quite there yet. So maybe ChatGPT 4 will have a little bit better luck. Next up, I have Andreas, and Andreas, you have getting a grip on data and model drift with Azure machine learning.
Oh, this is a gem. I love this article. I found this last week, and I'm like, wow. Thank you, Andreas Kapp and Natasha Savik, for putting this together for us. Now, what they talk about in this article is how do I manage my model drift, my data drift? It's going to happen. It's going to, you want to detect this drift. Things are going to change. It could be, the data changes because there's demographic changes, there's broken sensors, the data is not coming in. Maybe the data changes because it's seasonal. It's the holidays versus summer. So you want to take those into account. What they do in this article is they conceptualize and they put it all into, blocks that we can understand. How do we detect drift? How do we analyze the drift? And how do we mitigate that drift is what they talk to us about. So he walks through all these concepts. Once you wrap your head around, what you can do in each one of these stages for detecting the drift, analyzing it, seeing it, and also assessing the impact. The data is going to change. How does that impact my models? How does that impact my precision? We want to get all these concepts in our head, and then he takes us to a GitHub repo where he shows us how to implement a data and model drift management step into your ML ops to constantly review the drift and see where it's going. And he shows us that we can actually, if we implement these steps, we can actually collect values of how the data has shifted into different data frames and visualize in charts the data shift or the data drift. So at the end of the day, what he showcases all the blind spots that you could be possibly missing if you're not analyzing and mitigating data drift in your machine learning model development lifecycle.
Nice.
Very nice.
That's
Great
awesome.
stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Last but certainly not least, we have Josh Ludeman with TDE backups and high availability by Matthew Griffin.
Yeah, so sticking with the T's, we're going to go through this little tidbit of a tip here, and it really what Matthew walks through is TDE and then how it affects you in a couple different ways, both in backups and high availability. He goes through backup performance because obviously your backup's encrypted too, so you need to be able to de-encrypt that when you restore it. Also talks about high availability and how that impacts your choice for what aspect of high, or what tooling around high availability you're going to use and things like that. Again, nice, tight, short, succinct article by Matthew. Just loved it.
No, I love how he calls up the max transfer size and how historically TDE was not supported until we got to SQL 2016. This was one of the first technologies that I ever presented on. And I had to deep dive this as I was working for the Obama administration. And there used to be some bugs that were fixed in the product that I used to love. Like in 2008, when this originally came out, one of the things you could do is you could encrypt a database and then you could drop the certificate with the encryption thumb key in, and then you could restart the instance of SQL Server and the database would be in suspect mode until you restored the certificate, restarted the service again, and it would bring the database online. Of course, they fix that. You now get a dependent parent object error if you try and drop a certificate that is being used while it is encrypting a database, which is good. Makes perfect sense. But man, that was an awesome demo to be able to corrupt a database.
I was going to say, yeah, that's a great way to, that's a great way to mess it up if you want to.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's why I used to present on why the TDE certificate backups were just as, if not more important than your database. Because if you dropped that certificate and didn't have a backup to be able to restore,
you were done.
Good.
That was it.
Yeah, you were done.
I had a customer probably 2 or 3 months back, and they did not have the backup of the TDE. They did not put in the key vault. They just had it somewhere lying up there, and then I have no idea how to get that back in there because without a TDE certificate, there's no way you can get it back. So. Oh
yeah, no. I mean that's the safety mechanism, and I found that very early on, and so yeah, all my certs were backed up daily and scraped to tape. The good old days when we needed to do that. All right, I think that's everything. It's time for the wrap up.
Oh, is it time for the wrap up?
It's time for the wrap. Josh.
Okay.
Josh. I may have misspoken because I've done that a lot today. It's time for the wrap up. All right.
No, you're fine. This was me just messing with you going, oh, is it time for the wrap up?
No, I know.
Basically, that I recognized it.
Josh, you have to explain the joke. It's not funny anymore. Man, I told you that.
I was trying to actually save you from pointing the finger at yourself. You're doing good.
I know. Well, thanks.
You're covered.
I appreciate that I recovered from my own stupidity just to fall back into my own stupidity.
No, it's not stupidity.
Well,
You're just tripping over your tongue. It's all good.
One out of two ain't bad. All right, so enough of this tripping. Go and register for Microsoft Build. It's a free event online. You want to go, you want to sign up. You're going to want to be able to be alerted of the wonderful and have access to the recordings and the awesome information that will be coming out next week at Build. Do not forget the Microsoft Digital event. We covered that last week. We're going to have that in the links again. Also, we have the blog out on Azure Fast Track to tell you about that. We are the official pre-show for that digital event. Adam Saxton, Guy in a Cube, Bradley Schatt, Azure Snaps Analytics Product Group will be here with the four of us plus Dan Taylor back from vacation on Wednesday next week, on Thursday next week at 11 a.m. East Coast time, 3 p.m. UTC, 8 a.m. Pacific time.
We're going to be live 3 times next week, right? Roundtable.
Oh, we are. Roundtable on Tuesday, and then the 2 pre-shows on Wednesday and Thursday. Then Friday we sleep. It's going to be a busy week. Don't forget also, so you want to be at that pre-show, and then coming up, it's time. It is time to pack your bags. We don't know if it's time just yet because we still got to wait for the speaker selection to come out. Hopefully we're going to be there. But it is time for Live 360. Damu, I agree with you. Stop it, Josh. Josh, I don't know what you did. But that's okay. Now you can start it. Where is Live 360 going to be? It's going to be
Live 360 is going to be on the beautiful grounds of Universal Studios Orlando, inside the beautiful walls of the Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort and Conference Center.
Absolutely. You want to join us there the week before Thanksgiving. No better place to be on the planet than there with us, with great folks from Microsoft, MVPs, and everybody learning. 4 conferences in one. It's going to be a great time. And don't forget, on Monday, we dropped Azure SQL database maintenance plans with dynamic Azure Factory pipelines using all the Hologren scripts to deploy this against Azure SQL database. Blowing up like hotcakes. If you haven't viewed it, you're probably one of the few people who hasn't. You definitely want to check that out. And we will have another MS Tech Bits dropping tomorrow. Tuesday next week is our show. You got content, let us know. So much good stuff. Oh, one other thing. I say this when I present live, and I wanted to say it today. To everybody who is out there, who is listening, there is a story inside of you. Get involved in the SQL community, whether you're blogging through T-SQL Tuesday, whether you find your local SQL Saturday or your local user group to be able to submit. And if you do something, let us know about you, because that story is a story waiting to be told. And there is no difference from you sitting in a room and us sitting on a stream, other than the fact that you just haven't hopped out here yet. So you are the part of the community that makes this very special. So go out and create something. Let us know about it. We would love to hear from you.
And can I add one more thing to the parting, Brad?
Yeah.
Damu, please reply out to me on Twitter and let me know what I need to stop and why I've made you cry. I feel bad.
You know what you did, Josh. You know what he said. What he said. He said what he said.
He said what he said.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.